The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I pushed the mail cart down the sterile hallway of Meridian Tech's executive floor. My hands, which once wrote code that powered Fortune 500 companies, now sorted through interdepartmental memos and junk mail. 15 years of dedication reduced to this, the vindictive punishment of a man who felt threatened by what he couldn't understand. "Morning, Diana," Marcus Wright, our newly appointed CEO, called out with fake cheerfulness as I passed his corner office. "Those quarterly reports better be properly sorted this time." I didn't look up. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing my face. Instead, I kept pushing my cart, letting the squeaking wheel punctuate the silence. Behind me, I heard his smug chuckle, the sound of a man who thought he'd won. What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every mail delivery to the executive floor was also an opportunity. Each squeaky roll of my cart past their offices was another chance to observe, to listen, to gather intelligence that would prove invaluable in the months to come. Because while they saw a demoted senior developer pushing mail, I saw something else entirely. The final pieces of a plan 5 years in the making. It had started long before Marcus arrived with his MBA and his buzzwords about corporate restructuring. Back when I was still leading Meridian's core development team, I'd seen the signs. The slow erosion of innovation, the gradual shift towards short-term profits over long-term stability. I'd watched good people get pushed out, replaced by yes-men who knew how to talk about technology, but not how to build it. So I'd started planning, not out of revenge. Revenge is too simple, too emotional. No, I'd started planning because I saw an opportunity. While Meridian's leadership focused on quarterly earnings and stock buybacks, I focused on the future. "Ms. Walker," a quiet voice called out. I turned to see James, one of my former junior developers, looking uncomfortable in his newly pressed suit. I'm sorry about what happened. The demotion. It wasn't right." I smiled softly. James was one of the good ones. "Everything happens for a reason," I said, continuing my rounds. He had no idea how true those words were. 5 years ago, while still heading the development team, I'd started working on something in my spare time. A new kind of system architecture, one that could revolutionize how enterprise software handles data processing and security. Meridian's board had dismissed it as too experimental when I'd presented it. Marcus's predecessor had patted my head and told me to focus on realistic goals. So I did exactly that. I focused on building something of my own. The irony was delicious. Every day they forced me to spend in the mailroom was another day I could observe their operations without suspicion. Every degrading comment about my new role was another reminder of why I'd chosen to keep my startup, Nova Systems, completely secret from everyone at Meridian. As I pushed my cart into the break room, I overheard 2 executives talking in hushed tones. "The board's getting nervous," one whispered. "The new cloud platform isn't performing as promised. We're losing clients." "Marcus says he's got it under control," the other replied, not sounding convinced. I suppressed a smile. Of course the platform wasn't performing. They'd gutted the original architecture, my architecture, and replaced it with a flashy but fundamentally flawed system. What they didn't realize was that their biggest clients were already quietly talking to Nova Systems about an alternative. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Kate, my co-founder at Nova. Final paperwork filed. IPO announcement set for tomorrow morning. You ready? I glanced at my reflection in the break room window. The woman staring back at me didn't look like a typical tech founder. No designer clothes, no power suits. Just simple slacks and a button-up shirt. Graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. Exactly how they expected their mailroom lady to look. Ready? I typed back. See you at the office tonight. The office was a converted warehouse in the industrial district, where for the past 5 years, I'd been building something that would make Meridian's technology look like a flip phone in the age of smartphones. While they'd been forcing me into irrelevance, I'd been quietly assembling a team of the best developers in the industry. Many of them former Meridian employees who'd been similarly pushed aside. We hadn't just built a better system, we'd built the future. As I finished my morning mail rounds, Marcus stepped out of his office, straightening his expensive tie. "Diana," he called out, that same condescending smile on his face. "Since you're heading to the lobby anyway, be a dear and pick up my dry cleaning, would you?" I nodded politely. "Of course, Mr. Wright." He turned to walk away, then paused. "You know, I never understood why you stayed after the demotion. Most people would have quit." I looked at him directly for the first time that day. "I believe in seeing things through to the end, Mr. Wright." He laughed, that sharp, dismissive sound I'd grown so familiar with. "The end? Diana, this is your end. This is what loyalty gets you in the real world. The sooner you accept that, the happier you'll be." I watched him walk away, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the polished floor. In less than 24 hours, those same shoes would probably scuff that same floor as he ran from reporter to reporter, trying to explain how his company's obsolete senior developer had just become his biggest competitor. That evening, as I left Meridian's offices for what I knew would be the last time, I took one final look at the building I'd called home for 15 years. The security guard gave me a sympathetic smile as I walked out. The same smile I'd been getting since my demotion 3 months ago. "Good night, Ms. Walker," he called out. "See you tomorrow?" I smiled back. "Tomorrow's going to be different, Carl. For all of us." The drive to Nova's headquarters took exactly 28 minutes. I'd made this journey every evening for the past 5 years, leaving Meridian's corporate politics behind and stepping into a world where innovation still mattered, where ideas were valued more than titles. As I pulled into the parking lot, I saw the lights were still on. Through the large windows, I could see my team, brilliant minds from around the world, all brought together by a shared vision, and in many cases, a shared experience of being underestimated and overlooked. Kate met me at the door, tablet in hand, excitement barely contained. "Everything's ready," she said, falling into step beside me. "Press releases are queued, SEC filings are complete, and the trading floor is prepped for tomorrow's opening bell." I nodded, taking in the busy scene before me. Developers were running final system checks, PR teams were reviewing statements, and legal was doing one last review of all documentation. The energy was electric. "Any word from our friends at Meridian?" I asked, heading toward my office. Kate's grin widened. "Not a peep. Their entire executive team is focused on tomorrow's board meeting. Marcus is apparently planning to announce another round of strategic restructuring." I sat down at my desk, running my fingers over the smooth surface. Such a contrast to the mail cart I'd been pushing just hours ago. "How many of their clients have signed with us?" 17 of their top 20, Kate replied. "All ready to switch over the moment we go live. The migration protocols you designed are already in place. It'll be seamless." I opened my laptop, checking one last time that everything was in order. On the screen, lines of code scrolled past. The same code Meridian had dismissed as too experimental 5 years ago. The same code that would, by this time tomorrow, be worth billions. "What about the patent rights?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Kate's smile turned slightly wicked. "All registered under Nova Systems, filed long before you signed Meridian's new IP agreement. Their lawyers can squirm all they want, but there's nothing they can do about it. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a long breath. 5 years of double lives. 5 years of early mornings and late nights. 5 years of being underestimated, overlooked, and pushed aside. All leading to this moment. Send out the all-hands message, I said. I want to talk to everyone before tomorrow. 10 minutes later, I stood before my team, over 200 people, all gathered in our main workspace. The contrast between this and Meridian's sterile corporate environment couldn't have been starker. Here, there was energy, purpose, passion. Tomorrow, I began. My voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room, everything changes. Not just for us, but for the entire industry. Tomorrow, we show the world what happens when you value innovation over ego, collaboration over competition, and most importantly, when you recognize that great ideas can come from anywhere, even the mailroom. A ripple of knowing laughter spread through the crowd. Many of them knew my story. Some had similar stories of their own. But tonight, I want you to remember something. Success isn't about revenge. It's about vision. Every person in this room was chosen not because of their titles or their pedigrees, but because they dared to think differently. Tomorrow, we're not just launching a company. We're launching a revolution. The room erupted in applause as I looked out at the faces before me, excited, proud, determined. I felt a surge of emotion I hadn't expected. This wasn't just about proving Meridian wrong. It was about proving that there was still room in the tech world for real innovation, for people who cared more about creating something meaningful than climbing the corporate ladder. Later that night, as the last of the team headed home, Kate found me still in my office, staring out at the city lights. "Second thoughts?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. I shook my head, just thinking about tomorrow. About Marcus's face when he realizes who really owns the technology that could save his company. "Are you going to take his call when it comes?" "Oh, it won't be just his call," I said, turning to face her. "By noon tomorrow, every major tech company in the country will be calling. And for the first time in my career, I'll be the one deciding who gets to be heard." Kate nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Get some sleep, Diana. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." As I gathered my things to leave, I caught my reflection again in the window. The same practical clothes, the same simple hairstyle. But the woman looking back at me now stood differently. Shoulders straight, head high, eyes clear. Tomorrow, the world would know what Marcus Wright and the entire Meridian executive team had failed to see. That sometimes the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one making the most noise, but the quiet one in the corner, watching, learning, and building something that would change everything. I took one last look at the Nova Systems logo glowing on the wall. My real legacy, not the mail cart they tried to reduce me to. Tomorrow would be different indeed. But first, I had one last piece of mail to deliver. Morning light streamed through the windows of my penthouse apartment as I sipped my coffee, watching CNBC's pre-market coverage. For the first time in 15 years, I wasn't heading to Meridian's offices. No mail cart. No squeaky wheels. No Marcus Wright's condescending smile. Instead, I was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that had been hanging in my closet for precisely this day. My graying hair, usually pulled back in a practical bun, was now styled professionally. Amazing how a change of clothes and hairstyle could transform the mailroom lady into what I'd been all along. A tech CEO about to make history. My phone buzzed. Kate's message was simple. "It's starting." I turned up the volume on the TV just as the financial news anchor's expression shifted from casual to alert. Breaking news banner flashed across the screen. We're getting reports of a major IPO announcement in the tech sector, she said, shuffling papers. Nova Systems, a previously unknown software company, is set to go public this morning with an initial valuation that's sending shockwaves through the industry. I smiled, remembering Marcus's words from yesterday. This is your end. He had no idea how right he was, just not in the way he'd thought. My phone exploded with notifications. First came the industry alerts, then the tech blogs, then the mainstream media. Each headline bigger than the last. Nova Systems unveils revolutionary enterprise software platform. Tech's best-kept secret goes public. Unknown company poised to disrupt cloud computing market. But my favorite was from TechCrunch. Nova Systems CEO Diana Walker, the mailroom executive who built a billion-dollar empire in secret. At 8:15 a.m., exactly when Meridian's executive team would be gathering for their morning meeting, my phone rang. Marcus Wright's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Instead, I opened my laptop to a secure feed from Meridian's lobby. A perk of having built their security systems, I still had backdoor access to their cameras. The scene was chaos. Reporters were flooding the entrance, all hoping to get a comment about Nova Systems, about me, about the technology that Meridian had dismissed years ago. Through the feed, I watched Marcus arrive, his usual swagger replaced by barely contained panic. He was already on his phone, likely trying my number again. The security guard, Carl, stopped him to say something. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read Carl's lips. Ms. Walker won't be coming in today. Kate arrived at my apartment at 8:45 a.m., practically bouncing with energy. The stock opens in 45 minutes, she announced, setting up her laptop. The trading floor is insane. Initial orders are triple what we projected. I nodded, still watching the Meridian feed. The board members were arriving now, each looking more grim than the last. They knew what this meant. Nova Systems wasn't just another competitor. We owned the patents to technology that Meridian desperately needed. Diana, Kate said softly, you should see this. She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was an email from James, my former junior developer at Meridian. Ms. Walker, the office is in chaos. Marcus just had a meltdown in the executive meeting when legal confirmed that Nova owns the patent rights. He kept screaming about how he had you pushing mail for 3 months while you were building an empire. I just wanted you to know. We're all cheering for you. James P.S. Are you hiring? I was about to reply when my phone rang again. This time, it was Meridian's board chairman, Theodore Mills. Unlike Marcus's calls, this one I would answer. Good morning, Ted, I said calmly. Diana. His voice was tight, controlled. I believe we need to talk. We are talking. You know what I mean. The board is meeting now. We would appreciate your presence. I let the silence stretch for a moment. The same board that approved my demotion to mailroom clerk. That was a regrettable decision. One we're prepared to rectify immediately. Name your terms. I glanced at Kate, who was showing me the latest pre-market numbers. Nova's valuation had just crossed $10 billion. My terms, I said, keeping my voice level. Ted, I don't think you understand. I'm not looking for a better position at Meridian. I'm not looking for an apology. I'm not even looking for revenge. I'm looking forward. Something Meridian stopped doing a long time ago. We can match any offer, he said quickly. Whatever Nova's worth, we can. Goodbye, Ted? I cut him off. I have a stock exchange to open. The next hour passed in a blur of preparations. A car was waiting to take us to the exchange. Kate handled last-minute press inquiries while I reviewed my remarks. But before we left, I had one last piece of business to attend to. I opened my email and composed a message to Meridian's all-staff list, an address I technically shouldn't still have access to. But then again, I'd built their email system too. Dear Meridian colleagues, by now, you've heard about Nova Systems. Some of you knew me as the senior developer who was demoted to the mailroom. Others only knew me as the quiet woman who delivered your mail and picked up your dry cleaning. What none of you knew was that every day I spent pushing that mail cart was another day I spent learning. Learning who really drove innovation at Meridian. Learning who had the courage to think differently. Learning who treated people with respect, regardless of their title. To those who showed kindness when you thought I had nothing to offer, thank you. Your humanity was noted. To those who took pleasure in reminding me of my place, thank you as well. Your arrogance was equally noted. Nova Systems is now accepting applications. We hire based on talent, creativity, and character, not titles or pedigrees. You know where to find us. Warmest regards, Diana Walker, CEO, Nova Systems. I hit send just as Kate announced it was time to leave. In the car, watching the city speed by, I thought about how different this commute was from my usual morning drive to Meridian. Same streets, same traffic, but everything had changed. At the stock exchange, the energy was electric. Photographers called my name, a name none of them had known yesterday. Reporters shouted questions. Through it all, I maintained the same calm demeanor that had served me so well in the mailroom. As we approached the opening bell, Kate squeezed my hand. Ready to make history? I nodded, thinking about the long road that had led here. The late nights coding while others slept. The quiet recruitment of talented developers who'd been overlooked. The careful planning and perfect patience. The bell rang. Nova Systems was officially public. Within minutes, the stock price had doubled. By lunch, it had tripled. Every news channel was running the story, not just about Nova's revolutionary technology, but about its unconventional CEO, the mailroom executive, the patient revolutionary. Back at Meridian, Marcus Wright was discovering exactly what it meant to underestimate the wrong person. Their stock was plummeting as investors realized that their core technology was obsolete compared to Nova's platform, the same platform he'd had me pushing mail past every day. My phone buzzed with a text from Carl, the security guard. Mr. Wright just left the building. He was carrying a box. Guess someone else will be delivering the mail now. I smiled, but not out of satisfaction at Marcus's downfall. I smiled because this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. That evening, after the interviews and celebrations, I returned to Nova's headquarters. The team was still there, watching the news coverage, cheering every headline. But I headed straight to my office, where a package waited on my desk. Inside was a mail cart name tag, my old one from Meridian. Under it was a note from Kate, "Never forget where we started." I pinned the name tag to my office wall, right next to Nova's first patent filing. A reminder that success isn't about where you sit in an office. It's about what you build when no one's watching. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from James. Just submitted my resignation at Meridian. Along with half the development team. Your email inspired us. Hope that application portal is ready. I looked out at my team. Brilliant minds who'd believed in the vision when it was just an idea scratched out in a notebook. Tomorrow, we begin expanding, bringing in more talented people who'd been overlooked, underestimated, pushed aside. We'd build something even bigger. Because that's what happens when you take someone with vision and try to make them invisible. They don't disappear. They build empires in the shadows. They change the game while you're busy playing politics. And when they finally step into the light, they don't just claim a seat at the table. They'd build a bigger table. As the city lights twinkled outside my window, I thought about tomorrow's mail delivery at Meridian. Someone else would push that squeaky cart down those halls now. But they'd be walking past empty offices, their former occupants now racing to update their resumes, hoping to find a place at Nova Systems. I opened my laptop one last time that night, checking Nova's closing stock price. The number made me smile, not for its size, but for what it represented. Every digit was a validation of a simple truth. True power isn't in a title or an office. It's in the quiet certainty that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're capable of. Marcus had told me to know my place. Well, now everyone knew exactly where that place was. At the helm of the company that had just disrupted the entire industry. Not bad for a mailroom clerk.